Hey, what's up, my good friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and I help people navigate through their ascension process. Today, I'm going to share with you a story of my most, mind-bending, crazy, wild, mystical, divine type of encounter that happened to me. It was the first thing that really opened me up to the realization that there is so much beyond what we can perceive that actually exists. And I have a reason for telling you this story, which I'll get to at the end. There'll be a bit of a conclusion that'll make sense of why I'm sharing this with you. I've touched upon this before, but today I'm going to share it in more detail. It's kind of an interesting story. It happened to me when I was only 18 years old, and I was in a drug rehab facility. It was I think my third or fourth time in rehab. I was in rehab for heroin and crack cocaine use. And I was at a very low spot in my life where for a while when I first got caught up with the drugs, I was having a little bit of fun and I didn't want to stop. And my parents, I would always get in trouble and they'd throw me in rehab, and I would go through the motions and get out and then do what I wanted to do. But it didn't take long before the grim reality of what a heroin addiction does to a person's spirit, that it became a real issue for me, and I was just in a suicidal, horrible place. And I could not get clean. There was a couple times beyond that initial rehab experience, I went to rehab, and when I would get out, I'd have the best intentions, and I could not stay clean, and I felt trapped. And anyways, it was like my third or fourth time in rehab, and I had just gotten done with a didactic. They called it a didactic, where the different counselors would give a lecture to all the people staying there. And this one guy was one of those really annoying sort of religious people who kind of put on a persona as if he's some sort of chosen one that's always getting messages from God, and God told me this, God told me that kind of thing. Not a big deal. At the time, it rubbed me the wrong way because I had no real concept of God, and I was not religious, and those kind of people just really were annoying to me. And I was like, I would argue with this guy during the didactic. Anyway, I left the last class, the last didactic, and I was going back to my room. It was my first night in that one stay, and all my drugs were wearing off, so the withdrawal symptoms were coming on real hard. My nose is running now. My nose was running. I was getting just bogged, just sick. I was sitting at the end of my bed, and I was so frustrated. I was frustrated and pissed off with where my life was, that I felt like a prisoner to this darkness, and I did not have enough willpower to overcome my own demons. And again, at that time in my life, I had no real concept of God. I didn't believe in God because my life sucked so bad at that time, and I had no experience to ever really show me otherwise. Anyway, so I started yelling at the proverbial God that I didn't believe in. I started cursing and swearing and sort of freaking out in my room. At the end of my bed, I'm crying. I'm yelling at God and saying listen, if there's ever a time I needed a God, now would be the time. So why don't you prove yourself to me? People talk about you all the time. You're just sitting up there on your ass while I'm suffering here. And I just started flipping out. And all of a sudden, I was just gone. I didn't have a transition period. I didn't remember falling asleep. I was just somewhere else. And where I was a heavenly type of realm, is the best way I could describe it. It was a place, and it was very white and bright. And there was a I get when I get deep into the story, man, I get choked up because I remember how it felt. It had a pulsating energy of love, real divine love, not this superficial human attachment type shit. Love. It was holy shit. That in and of itself just blew me away. And I was I didn't really have a moment or so to question why I was there. Because, right away when I got there, I noticed what it was like. And then all of a sudden, this angel out of left field just made its presence known, and I could see it. It looked like you would think an angel looks like. It was white. It had a robe type thing, and just a real peaceful, angelic, saint-like type of demeanor, and wings. And it came over to me slowly, and as it was approaching to me, I could feel the love from this being getting like stronger and like beaming out of it. And it got closer and closer and closer. And I started crying like a little baby, man. It was such a divine, intense quality of pure love that I just started weeping. And this angel came and like hugged me, kind of put its arms/wings around me. And then the love just got to another level. It was just so freaking crazy. And beyond that, this is where it gets to where it's a little bit peacey, but we were like kind of walking, and then it decided to like flash me back to some of my past experiences. It felt real similar to I used to read a lot about near-death experiences, and people would have like a past life, a life regression, or not a life regression, but a life review. And I was able to go back to certain experiences of my life, particularly when I was an addict. And I could see it from this like wiser perspective. And I could see like, wow, the people I was around, they weren't like my real friends. And it was just like, I just saw the error of my ways. It was very, I saw my situation very clearly. And then after that, I started playing this game. Me and this angel started playing this game. I swear to God, we had these like little handle. It was like a handle with a little like curve, and we were like whipping these balls back and forth to each other. And I remember the reason for that. It was such fun, such joy. We were having such a giddy old time playing this very simple game. And for years, or at least several months, couple years when I was an addict, it was like I was unable to have fun without shooting dope and getting high. And this was sort of to show me that, listen, life can be joyful. It can be fun. You don't need those drugs. So that was kind of like a divine intervention, you could say. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I remember is I'm literally gasping, like gasping out of my bed. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, I was like, it took me a while to process it. Like, what was that, you know? And my intuition at that time told me to write it down so I could feel it slipping away. And I wrote it down in detail. I still have it in this yellow notepad I got from rehab. I still have it somewhere in storage. Anyway, in writing that down, it helped kind of solidify it for me, you know? But that was a legit divine encounter with a heavenly realm and an angel, right? Awesome, cool, wow. But you never did drugs again after that point, right? No, wrong. That's the reason I'm saying this, telling this story. As crazy and profound as that was, and I was fortunate enough to have the inclination to write it down so I can recall it pretty nicely, and I can even sort of relive it. As I said, I got a little teary-eyed just going back into it. But even something that mystical, that earth-shattering, when I got out of rehab, I relapsed almost immediately. I remember, in fact, I got arrested, and I'm not going to get into all that, but I had a lot of bad stuff happen to me right after that. So that experience, as crazy as it was, did not have any sustainable, lasting effect on me. It was a fleeting thing that came and went, and thereafter it came and went, I was left with the totality of who I was, my consciousness. And the point of this video is that experiences like that, though fairly somewhat common among people like you will go into this awakening, it happens to some people, it doesn't happen to anybody, but it's not, for one, indicative that the person it happened to is extra spiritual, and it's not something that's going to really give you what you want, which is real happiness. We want to feel better. That's all. We want to feel better and feel happiness more. And those experiences can be ecstatic like a drug. But then as the drug wears off, then you're left back with the reality of your life. And you might have a faint, foggy memory of that time, but it's not going to be enough to nullify whatever situation's going on in your life that presently sucks. I made this video essentially because a lot of people I talk to ask about these types of things. I heard you had this happen, Vic. What about this? How can I have that? And I can tell it's coming from a desperate place with the notion that if I just had this happen to me, if I could just really see that this is all for real, then I would feel better. Then my life would make sense. Then I would be able to kind of rest easy at night. But that is not the case. Anyway, take that for what you will. They're just a bit of a glamorization of these types of experiences and whatnot. I kind of wanted to give you my perspective that, again, for me and my experience, it was fun, but it really is not something that, it didn't have that much of an impact on my life at all. So Anyway, maybe this will help some of you who feel like you want something like that to happen, and maybe it won't. Anyway, I felt like sharing that today, so I will speak to you in another video. Have an amazing time, amazing day. Sorry, I got like no sleep last night. Talk to you next time. Namaste.